Well, Ryan Chiaverini lost two friends in the massacre, and he joins me now. Ryan, my deepest condolences to you, losing two friends in this horrific massacre. How are you holding up tonight?
You know, Don, like everybody else in this country, I'm still trying to wrap my brain around this madness, around this senseless crime. And, I lost my former brother-in-law, Chris, who served this country in Afghanistan. And he served this country because he wanted to protect Americans. And the irony and the painful part is he comes back to this country and he's killed by an American with military artillery that no civilian should have access to. My other friend, Hannah, who was there completely separately with her husband, just trying to enjoy a music festival, was shot and killed. And, I woke up yesterday to some missed phone calls from my sister-in-law, Shannon, and also a text message that said, "Call me." And I knew immediately, when you get missed calls in the morning and a text message like that, you know something's bad. And so I turned on the news as I was calling her, just bracing myself for what was to come. And I'm seeing the casualty number on the screen, and she answered the phone with that somber voice. And I said, What? Tell me what's going on. And she said, "Hannah's dead, and Chris has been shot in the chest, and he's missing." And we didn't know all day whether or not Chris was alive, and then we finally got the word about 5 o'clock yesterday. I was told that Chris was shot in the chest, and he realized that he was shot, and he actually lifted his shirt up and showed his friends that he had been shot. And they laid him down, and they were trying to stop the bleeding, and then first responders were yelling for everyone to take cover and to leave the wounded while they tend to the wounded. And so that's why he was on this missing list, because everything was scattered. And I know a firefighter tried to tend to him and saw him take his last breath.
Yeah. Ryan, Chris was a Navy vet who served in Afghanistan. You mentioned that. He was struggling with his war experience back at home. In his final Facebook post, he wrote in part, he said, "What is it like being shot at?" A question people ask because it's something that less than 1% of our American population will ever experience. It's a nightmare. No amount of drugs, no amount of therapy, and no amount of drunk talks with your war veteran buddies will ever be able to escape. How are you dealing with the fact that Christopher survived a war, and you mentioned it a little bit earlier, and then he loses his life at a country music festival right here in the United States?
Right, and he was involved in some pretty bad firefights in Afghanistan, and he dealt with his PTSD when he got back here, and he was finally really excelling in his career and got promoted in his company, and we were really proud of him to see him come out of that. But he was proud that he served our country. He was proud that he protected Americans, and he signed up for those firefights, and he knew about that. He signed up to face those military weapons when he was in a war zone. Nobody signs up for that as a civilian. And as much as we're grieving right now as family and as friends, there's a part of me that's also incredibly angry right now. We just keep seeing this over and over again. When 9/11 happened, we changed the way that we travel in this country forever to prevent it from ever happening again. Yet this continues to happen, and we do nothing. I mean, this is happening in schools, high schools. I played college football at the University of Colorado when Columbine happened, and we wore the Columbine flower on our uniform for the entire year. That was 18 years ago, and here we are again. I mean, when does it stop? When can we find some common ground and common sense in this country? It's not about the Second Amendment. I'm not a gun owner, but I'm not against people owning guns. I'm against people owning military assault rifles that nobody needs to protect their family or to hunt with.
Can I ask you something, Ryan? Because the people who are saying that this shouldn't be discussed are saying that it shouldn't be discussed out of respect for people like you who have lost loved ones. What do you say to them?
I say we need to discuss it. We need to have a roundtable. We need to get Washington involved. We need to get everybody involved, because you know what? Our loved ones would still be here if we would have done something about this a long time ago. And Columbine was not the first mass shooting, as we all know. It was the first one that got a ton of press and a ton of coverage. But how many have there been since then, and how many more does it take? For me, that's where the anger lies for me. It's like, we got to do something. You know, I just mentioned 9/11. We changed a lot of things. We got uncomfortable as Americans during that time to prevent it from happening again. Why can't we save some people's lives here? It's just about common sense. It's really not a political thing. It's not a Second Amendment thing. It's about just common sense.
Yeah. And Ryan, we thank you because we know with sadness and grief, there's a lot of emotion. Anger can come as well, and you want something done, and we certainly understand that. And I can't imagine the loss and the grief that you're experiencing, but we certainly thank you for coming on CNN. Best of luck.
And Don, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for letting us share these stories because I think it's important that we do that. And I would be remiss if I don't say that, you know, Hannah was a loving mother who had 3 beautiful children. Her youngest was 3 years old. And I don't know how you explain that to a 3-year-old. And, you know, she lived for her husband, Brian, and they were together for 20 years, and now he's alone. You know, Chris married my stepsister, and he was turning 29 on Monday, and now she's literally driving his body back from Las Vegas, and we're planning a funeral. It's just, it's painful, and for every family that has been affected by this, we got to do something.
Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate it.